What's good, everyone? This is your main correspondent, Alan Taylor, and I'm back in the broadcast room. So we're going to Minnesota again, and yes, it seems to me that it's just gotten way out of hand. I don't understand why these people are still out there in the way. You could take it however you want to. What I'm saying here, because it's the truth. Why are you out there in the way protesting? Stop. These people are after the ICE is after a certain segment of people. Why is everybody else, out there protesting? Now, allegedly here, some of these people are being paid and others are just probably falling in line. But my issue is, where don't these people have anything tangible to do, family to take care of, jobs to be at, things like that? This makes no sense to me that it's that many people outside on a working day. Well, this is America. Saturday's still a working day. I don't give a fuck. We don't shut down. Listen, look, this is crazy and ridiculous. People need to have stuff to do, and I'm pretty sure a lot of these people have other things to do other than to be out here like this. So we're gonna go here now. Quarters, nickels, and dimes.
A 37-year-old Minneapolis man was shot and killed by federal agents on Saturday. He's been identified as a U.S. citizen and an ICU nurse named Alex Pretti. CBS's Christian Benavides reports the incident happened on the heels of the shooting death of Renee Good and has led to escalating tensions between protesters and federal officials.
Cell phone videos captured the moments leading up to the shooting death of 37-year-old U.S. citizen Alex Pretti after an encounter between protesters and federal officers. A Border Patrol agent pushes a woman who is a protester. Pretti gets in between the woman and the agent, who then appears to deploy pepper spray. As Pretti is being taken to the ground by a group of federal officers, one of them discovers he is armed with a handgun. Another officer opens fire.
The officers attempted to disarm this individual, but the armed suspect reacted violently. Fearing for his life and for the lives of his fellow officers around him, an agent fired defensive shots.
The Department of Homeland Security released this photo of a 9mm semi-automatic handgun. Minnesota officials say Pretti, an ICU nurse, had a valid permit to carry and was legally allowed to have the handgun in Minnesota, which is an open carry state.
I just saw a video of more than 6 masked agents pummeling one of our constituents and shooting him to death. How many more residents, how many more Americans need to die or get badly hurt for this operation to end?
None of them need to. My question is, why are they out there in the first place? I would be stupid to go out there and try to get in the way of whatever law enforcement doing. Definitely. It's the truth. If I was to take my tail out there and get in the way of whatever law enforcement is doing and I end up getting murked, the news wouldn't be so kind. They'll be sitting around here, well, he shouldn't have been out there and things like that. No, you shouldn't have been out there. This is crazy right here. And we got to start waking up to the truth here. Them people had no business being out there, disturbing and impeding on investigations and whatever ICE had going on and who they was looking for. The whole situation here is that ICE can't now do their job and get the real criminals out the way because these so-called citizens are running up, getting in their faces, disturbing them, whistles, cars all in the way, stuff like that, crowds of people. They can't do their job. People, go home.
Protests have escalated following the incident, which comes just 2 weeks after the death of Renee Good, also at the hands of a federal officer who said he fired in self-defense.
We don't disagree that there is an issue with criminal immigrants. We all agree that there is an issue with how it's being addressed right now, with complete lack of regard for human life and dignity.
In response to the shooting, more than 1,000.
How is that possible, dude? If you're not out there as an American citizen, if you're not out there and you're at your home or at work or with your family, your kids and stuff like that, if you're doing what you're supposed to be doing as an American citizen and being productive, you won't have time to be out there worried about what ICE is doing. You won't be in the way. Nobody will be in the way to get hurt. This is very logical thinking here, people. This is not talking out the side of the neck. If you're not there, you won't get hurt because you're in the way.
Protesters took to the streets in
Man,
Minneapolis
stop
in
it.
sub-zero temperatures, with other protests being held in solidarity nationwide. Christian Benavides, CBS News.
Man. Yeah, this is heartbreaking, bro, to see a segment of Americans going out like this. I mean, going out bad, bro. They going out bad. This is crazy. So let's see what Kash Patel has to say about this situation. Let's go here now.
Now, the Trump administration is responding to the second fatal shooting this month of an American citizen in Minneapolis at the hands of a federal agent. ABC Justice and Homeland Security reporter Luke Barr joins me now with the latest. Luke, Kash Patel appeared on Fox News Sunday today saying Americans cannot bring loaded firearms to protests. What else did he have to say?
Yeah, he did, and we do have some sound of that. Let's take a listen to what the director said first here, Ike.
But as Secretary Noem said, no one who wants to be peaceful shows up at a protest with a firearm that is loaded with 2 full magazines. That is not a peaceful protest, and you do not get to touch law enforcement. You do that anywhere, this FBI is going to be leading the charge to arrest those.
Yeah, Ike, and he also said that, quote, you cannot bring a firearm loaded with multiple magazines to any sort of protest. He said it's that simple. You don't have that right to break the law and incite violence. And he also confirmed in that Fox hit that the Department of Homeland Security is actually leading this investigation with an assist from the FBI. He said that the FBI is in possession of the firearm and they're running tests, but so far it's a DHS investigation, Ike.
So we have the FBI and the DHS saying that you cannot bring loaded firearms to protests. So how are Second Amendment advocates responding to that?
Well, on X and other social media posts, there is some concern about that statement. But on the record, the Minnesota Gun Owners Caucus said in a statement, quote, they are deeply concerned about the shooting that occurred yesterday and are hoping that an investigation plays out fully to see what happens. They say, quote, every peaceable Minnesotan has the right to keep and bear arms, including while attending protests, acting as observers, or exercising their First Amendment rights. These are
acting as observers. Dude wasn't observing. He was in the mix. Technically fighting officers with the gun on him. Listen, look, man. I don't care what nobody's saying here. When you go to protests and stuff like that, the mass amount of people, Second Amendment or not, why is what you need a gun at a protest for? Now, I'm not saying you open carry and stuff like that, because I live in an open carry state, things like that. I get it. You have your stuff with you. There's nothing wrong with that. But at the same time, too, when you go to a protest, you're just supposed to protest, say what you have to say, shout, whatever, stand there, be fine. But when you're running up on officers and stuff like that, and you're trying to engage in things, you clearly saw the video. This lady was, in the way. ICE got her out the way. He comes up and tries to defend the lady and stuff like that against the ICE officer. And unknowingly, he's carrying a firearm. Hostile situations are hostile situations, and when law enforcement is moving a certain type of way, you need to move a certain type of way. I'm not saying that you're not supposed to be able to carry your firearm, but don't inject yourself in shit that you got no business being in. And what was he there for in the first place? All this protesting crap is getting on my nerves, because y'all out there protesting for the wrong things. Why don't y'all protest for the government to get somebody with, not even the government? Why don't you protest with some of your own neighborhoods and stuff like that, your local governments, to get these schools back right? How about that? Your streets and your roads and all this other type of stuff. How about you protest for something that's going to actually benefit you too as a citizen, not worried about people that's being deported?
rights do not disappear when someone is lawfully armed, and they must be respected and protected at all times, Ike.
Luke, Attorney General Pam Bondi is blaming Minnesota Governor Tim Walz and Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey for the events unfolding in Minnesota right now. What is she saying about federal agents leaving the state, and how is Governor Walz responding to this?
Yeah, so she sent a letter to the governor and in part said, quote, "The lawlessness in the streets is matched by the unprecedented financial fraud concerning occurring on your watch." She said, "and the out-of-control fraud in your state also implicates election security. It's a tragedy that Americans have lost faith in Minnesota's ability to keep the taxpayers' funds secure and the citizens safe." Now, she also outlined 3 things, according to her, that Minnesota has to do in order to get aligned with the administration. And the last one is turning over voter rolls for the state. Now, the other 2 are ending the sanctuary jurisdiction and turning over Medicaid and SNAP databases to the Justice Department so they can investigate the alleged fraud.
Okay, then, that sounds like a good plan. But with this situation here, that these people are out here protesting ICE, causing all this confusion in the mainstream media, talking out the side of their neck, oh my goodness, we're just peacefully protest. How you peacefully protesting and you're running up on ICE? You know what I'm saying? You're running up on law enforcement physically. That's not peaceful, dude. Stand back, stand on the street corners, other side right there with your signs, shout all you want, but don't run up on police officers and think this shit gonna be okay. This is the disrespect that we're starting to see in our country, and the rest of the world is judging us on these moments in time right now and seeing how weak we really are and how divided we really are. Like this or not, the segment of people that are choosing to either be paid to go out there and do this or going out there on their own free will are causing this issue over here. This is a major problem. These people need to go sit down. Yeah, sorry. We're going to hear what Kristi Noem really had to say.
Perpetuate violence against a government because of ideological reasons and for reasons to resist and perpetuate violence. That is the definition of domestic terrorism. This individual who came with weapons and ammunition to stop a law enforcement operation of federal law enforcement officers committed an act of domestic terrorism. This individual showed up to impede a law enforcement operation and assaulted our officers. They responded according to their training and took action to defend the officer's life and those of the public around him. And I don't know of any peaceful protester that shows up with a gun and ammunition rather than a sign. This is a violent riot when you have someone showing up with weapons and are using them to assault law enforcement officers. And so this investigation is ongoing. We're continuing to gather the facts as they unfold throughout that. And we'll do it just like we did under the entire Trump administration and previous administrations. Nothing has changed, and we'll continue to release details as we have them. But I want to not distract away from the facts of this situation. Our law enforcement officers were there doing a targeted operation against an individual who was in this country illegally and had a criminal conviction for domestic assault with intent to do bodily harm and other convictions as well. This individual went and impeded their law enforcement operations, attacked those officers, had a weapon on him and multiple dozens of rounds of ammunition, wishing to inflict harm on these officers, coming brandishing like that and impeding their work that they were doing. The 2 things that we've asked the mayor and the governor for is that they would partner with us, and before they let somebody dangerous out of their jails, that they would let us know so we can deport them out of our country. I do not know why they continue to choose the side of lawbreakers, criminals, murderers, and rapists over the citizens of Minneapolis. And this situation that we have today is a tragedy that we don't have to have. We have it because we have a mayor and a governor who encourage this violence and encourage this type of rioting. And remember, these are the individuals that were in charge when Minneapolis burned in 2020. They facilitated it, they encouraged it, and they saw the destruction. And we all watched the destruction of that city back then. It doesn't have to happen again. It appears that they're following the same playbook. And the reason that they're doing it is to distract from the corruption that they have facilitated in fraud and theft from the American taxpayers.
Right. And that's where we at. That's where we at. That's the bottom line. All this that's being allowed is a distraction. And the governor and the mayor is sitting around there talking out the side of their necks, talking about they're tired of, They're tired of American citizens being deleted and stuff like this. Okay, well, tell your constituents to sit at home or actually have a peaceful protest on the sidewalk with their signs. That's how you protest. You don't walk up to law enforcement officers, whether you have a sign or not, or whatever. You don't walk up to law enforcement officers when they're trying to do things. Definitely in this situation here. This is ridiculous here. I bet you they won't walk up on Minnesota police like that. Man, come on, bro. Come on. And we want to sit here and act like these people aren't being truly stupid and creating all this chaos. The people, the fake citizens that are being paid to be at these protests and create all this stuff, and the other ones that are coming there on their own free will, they're bringing the chaos. It would be no chaos if them people were somewhere being productive. It would be no chaos if them people had business to handle. It would be no chaos if they were home taking care of their children and loved ones and doing things that they need to do as American citizens. It would be no chaos. ICE would come in, pick up who they need to pick up, and go on about their way. It's just that simple. Now let's go here now. This is the pretty much the captain, the leader of Border Patrol situation, things like that. He's going to say some things. Let's do this.
Commander Bovino, when it comes to the shooting, from what I understand, there were 2 agents who fired shots. We know one of the agents had 8 years experience, and we know he was a less lethal instructor and had this training. What did the other agent, what was his history? And are they both working right now, or are they on administrative leave?
All agents that were involved in that scene are working, not in Minneapolis, but in other locations. That's for their safety. There's this thing called doxing, and the safety of our employees is very important to us. So we're going to keep those employees safe. As far as the number of shots, the number of agents involved, that again is going to come out in the investigation. I'm not going to speculate on who did what, when they did it, how they did it, or what exactly occurred there. I'm going to wait for the investigation to let me know what happened.
Did have 8 years experience, so we are talking about one of the agents. Why not talk about the other who shot as well? Because
Before those facts come out, we need to ensure that we're talking truthfully and accurately. And before I speculate, I'm going to talk truthfully and accurately.
Right. And I get it. We all need to sit back and let this investigation unfold. We need to make sure that things are in the proper perspective and try to figure out the evidence for real though. Regardless of what, if the officers are guilty, they're guilty. If not, then we need to chill the fuck out and get these people with this fake protesting out the way. So, I'm all for justice, real justice, be it either way. I'm for real justice here. And this is the thing here. I'm not going to lighten up on this situation. That at the same time, though, too, if these protesters weren't out there, rage protesting, because it's a difference between a peaceful protest and their rage protesting. They're rage protesting. They're out there in the middle of the streets, blocking traffic, doing all types of stuff, pretty much shutting whole city blocks down en masse like this. This is not protesting. This is rage protesting. You're out there like tyrants running amok, infecting situations and impeding on law enforcement activity. And then you want to think like it's just supposed to be okay. And you could put your hands on law enforcement officers and stuff like that. I would, in reality, though, you can't put your hands on a normal citizen without them defending themselves. So what are we talking about here? This is ridiculous, people. These people need to go sit down, get out the way, and all this chaos and stuff will stop happening. But it is what it is, though. Shout out to all my subscribers. Mad love to y'all. If you're new to the channel, please hit that like, share, subscribe button. Make sure you ring that bell to be notified whenever I decide to post things. And like I always say, and that, my friends, is the bottom line. That, my friends, is the bottom line.